Okay, good day. So, this topic is about hematopoiesis. So, what we are going to deal with for today are the following. So, we are going to define what hematopoiesis is. We're going to deal with the different stages involved in hematopoiesis. And later on, we are going to discuss further the so-called adult hematopoietic tissue. We'll have the extramedullary hematopoiesis, and then the stem cell theory, and lastly would be the different cytokines and growth factors that we need in hematopoiesis. So, if you have further questions or clarifications, just feel free to send me an email or a message through Canvas. Okay? So, when you say hematopoiesis, it is a continuous and regulated process of blood cell production. So, these processes result in the formation, development, and specialization of all functional blood cells. So again, these blood cells that we are referring to are your red cells, white cells, and your platelets. So as you produce them, as they are developed, specialized, later on, they are released from our bone marrow and be present on the peripheral circulation. When you say peripheral circulation, you're talking about the blood. Okay? So when you say hematopoiesis, it basically deals with the following here. Cell renewal, you'll have the proliferation, differentiation, and maturation. Kasi in the production of mature cells, mature red cell, mature WBC, and mature platelets, definitely there are certain stages that are involved. Okay? So, hematopoiesis in humans, among us humans, can be characterized by as a selective distribution of embryonic cells in specific sites that later on change during development. Kaya, there will be certain proliferation, differentiation, and later on, maturation. And in the process of hematopoiesis or cell production, to make it simple, when you say hematopoiesis, you're talking about cell production, blood cell production. So in the process of hematopoiesis, we have three different stages involved. Okay? So we have the so-called mesoblastic phase, hepatic phase, and then your medullary phase. Okay? So in healthy adults, hematopoiesis is restricted primarily to our bone marrow. Later on, we'll further discuss in each stage what would be the site or sites responsible for cell production and what would be the cell or cells produced on that particular stage. Okay? So, to begin with, meron tayong tinatawag na mesoblastic phase. Okay? So, it is early in the embryonic development where cells from the mesoderm migrate to the so-called yolk sac. Okay? So again, those cells during the embryonic development from your mesoderm later on migrates to the yolk sac. And later on, some of these cells form primitive. Pag sinabi nating primitive, these are young cells. So some of these cells form primitive erythroblasts. Again, when you have that blast on the suffix, you are referring to immature cells, right? So at this point in time, what you have or what you can extract are more of your primitive or immature RBCs. Okay? So these primitive erythroblasts are present in the central cavity of your yolk sac. So meaning, in this period, the chief site or the main responsible site for the production of cells would be your yolk sac, the embryonic yolk sac. And as to studies, the mesoblastic phase or the hematopoietic phase, okay, will begin as early as the 19th day of gestation. Imagine, 19th day, di ba? Roughly, our mothers are pregnant roughly 3 weeks, right? So imagine, as early as that point, we are starting to produce cells. Okay? Specifically, what you have there are erythroblasts. Okay? Erythroblasts that are important in the early embryogenesis that will later on produce you hemoglobins. Okay? Importante kasi yung hemoglobin. Diba? As what you know, diba, hemoglobin is responsible for the delivery of oxygen, right? So for that tissue, diba, at that point, 19th day, diba, we're more of a mass of tissue. At that point, you need a lot of oxygen, you need a lot of nutrients so that that tissue, that embryo will fully mature. Right? So at this point, you have here your embryonic hemoglobins. And sir, what are these embryonic hemoglobins that we are referring to? So we have basically 3 embryonic hemoglobins present in this mesoblastic phase. Okay? So you have the so-called Gower 1, you have the so-called Gower 2, and you have the so-called Portland hemoglobin. Remember, these 3 hemoglobins here are present only during the embryonic life. These are present only on your mesoblastic phase. Okay? So, sir, how will I know if what I have is Gower 1, Gower 2, or Portland? Ito, later on, as we deal with red cells, later on with hemoglobin, we will further understand how to classify or differentiate hemoglobins. But the most simple thing that we need to understand in classifying or differentiating types of hemoglobin is by checking their so-called globin content. Kasi hemoglobin is a mixture of heme and globin. Okay? And for every hemoglobin molecule, you have 4 units of heme paired with 4 units of globin. It should always come in pair. Okay? So if you have heme, you have globin. So for every hemoglobin molecule, remember, how many globins do we have? Meron tayong 4. Okay? So if you want to further differentiate Gower 1 from Gower 2 to Portland hemoglobin, you just check the globins. Okay? So if what you have is Gower 1, you can take note of this one, or you can check your books. Again, I highly encourage you to read books. Okay? So for Gower 1, what you have here would be 2 epsilon and 2 zeta chains. These are your globins. 2 epsilon chain and 2 zeta chains. Okay? For Gower 2, what you have here are 2 alpha and 2 epsilon chains. These are your globins again, the alpha and the epsilon chains. And when you reach or when you have that Portland hemoglobin, what you have in Portland would be 2 zeta and 2 gamma chains. Lagi, it's always equal to 4. Again, for Gower 1, you have 2 epsilon and 2 zeta chains. For Portland, you have 2 zeta and 2 gamma chains. And for Gower 2, you have 2 alpha and 2 epsilon chains. Again, these hemoglobins are only present during the embryonic life, during the mesoblastic phase. Okay? And what makes this mesoblastic phase different as compared with the next stage, especially with the hepatic phase, is that the yolk sac hematopoiesis differs from those other stages that occurs later in the fetus and the adult, is that it occurs, this mesoblastic phase here, it occurs intravascularly. When you say intravascularly, it's within the developing blood vessels. Okay? It's within the developing blood vessels. Unlike with hepatic, unlike with the medullary stage later, those are extravascular synthesis of cells. But with mesoblastic, it's more of intravascular synthesis. Okay? And then later on, this yolk sac here could be active. Remember, it starts as early as 19th day, but it can remain active up to 8 weeks or 12th week of gestation. hanggang 8th week, it can be active, or hanggang even 12th week, it could be active. But later on, yolk sac will discontinue its role. By hook or by crook, diba? Whether we like it or not, yolk sac will discontinue its role because of the continuous development. Okay? So, after the yolk sac discontinues its role, definitely, there is a transition and there is a replacement. Kasi remember, hematopoiesis should never stop. Hematopoiesis never stops. Because once it stops, you then stop the production of blood cells. And we cannot afford to do that. Right? We cannot afford to lose RBCs, to lose white cells, and to lose platelets. Tama? Or else, there'll be a lot of complications, there'll be a lot of consequences that will then later on lead to death. Kaya, it should never stop. Okay? So, once your mesoblastic phase, your yolk sac, discontinue its role, later on, you will have the so-called hepatic phase. So, as to studies, it begins at 5 to 7 gestational weeks. 5 to 7. So, parang nandun pa siya sa transition from the mesoblastic to the hepatic phase. Okay? So, it starts at 5 to 7 gestational weeks and it could reach its peak production on the 3rd month of pregnancy. The highest production of cells during the hepatic phase will be on the 3rd month of pregnancy. And on that 3rd month, ilang weeks yon? Roughly 12 weeks. Right? So, on that 3rd month, that is when your yolk sac has totally discontinued its role in hematopoiesis. Okay? So, there's a transition. So, when you reach the 3rd month, that is when your hepatic phase is on a full blast mode. Tuloy-tuloy yung production niya ng cells. Okay? Then later on, it will reach its peak production at 3rd month. Then gradually, it will decline after the 6th month period. Pababa na siya ng pababa. But then, as what we have said a while ago, if something ends, there will be a transition and there will then be a replacement. Okay? So, furthermore, in this hepatic phase, it's characterized by recognizable clusters of erythroblasts, granulocytes, and monocytes, as well as the presence of your lymphoid cells and the evidences of megakaryopoiesis. So if you will compare it with the mesoblastic phase a while ago, in mesoblastic, sir, it is confined with erythropoiesis. Right? Kasi what I have, sir, are primitive or immature erythroblasts. This time around, aside from erythroblasts, you also have other hematopoietic cells. Nakakakita ka na ng white cells, meron ka na rin for platelets later on. So meaning to say, as you reach this point, all blood cells may later on be produced. Okay? And basically, you call it as hepatic stage because the main site for cell production would then be your liver. So those clusters of cells, developing cells, colonizes your liver, the fetal liver, the other reticuloendothelial system organs like your thymus, your spleen, the placenta, even the bone marrow that will later on be responsible for the medullary phase. Okay? And unlike the mesoblastic phase, again, this time it is extravascular. Sa mesoblastic, intravascular. Extravascular kasi, at this point, you have those organs now. Right? Diba? When you reach the 3rd month, sir, nandun na yung mga organs. Meron ng liver. So, it's more of that extravascular production or synthesis of cells. And since you are producing red cells here, definitely, there will always be hemoglobin. Right? I don't know if you can still remember it during our orientation, pero what makes red cells so special, what makes them functional, is that they have hemoglobin inside. So if you have hemoglobin, if you have red cells here, definitely there should be hemoglobin here that will then be responsible for the transportation of oxygen. Tama? And the major hemoglobin at this phase, you are now on the fetus stage, fetal stage. Okay? What you have here is hemoglobin F, or simply called as fetal hemoglobin. Okay? That's what F stands for, fetal hemoglobin. But at the same time, aside from the presence of hemoglobin F, yes, this is the predominant one, but there are also evidences of hemoglobin A. A now stands for adult. Remember, while we are still inside the wombs of our mothers, syempre, what predominates is F. Okay? But once we are born, later on, there will be a decrease in the production of hemoglobin F, and later on, hemoglobin A or adult hemoglobin will then start to rise. Okay? Kaya, among us adults, definitely, the most abundant one would be hemoglobin A. But if you'll ask, Sir, do I have hemoglobin F right now in my body as an adult? Yes. Okay? As an adult, still, we have a little portion of hemoglobin F. Okay, just to share with you. So, among us adults, take note we're talking about We're talking about adults, okay? So, among us adults, the predominant hemoglobin is hemoglobin A1, followed by hemoglobin A2, and a little portion of hemoglobin F. Roughly around 95% of our hemoglobin right now is hemoglobin A1. 2 to 3% is A2, and 1 to 2% is hemoglobin F. Okay? And again, how do we differentiate hemoglobin? We then check their globins. Okay? How many globins again are present in every hemoglobin molecule? You have here 4. Right? So for fetal hemoglobin, hopefully you write it down. Okay? So for fetal hemoglobin, you have 2 alpha and 2 gamma. Okay? For hemoglobin A1, you have here 2 alpha and 2 beta. And for hemoglobin A2, you have 2 alpha and 2 delta. Okay? So this is for A1, this is for A2, and this is for F. Okay? So let's make it clear. During the fetal life, still, what predominates is hemoglobin F. Okay? Then, aside from the liver, there are other organs responsible also for the synthesis of cells. Hindi kasi kaya ni liver lahat. So, that is when your spleen, your kidneys, especially for B cell production, and thymus for your T cells will then be important so that you can produce the necessary cells needed by your body. Okay? Again, kailan magtatapos ang hepatic stage natin? It will start to decline after the 6th month of gestation. So, when you reach that point on the transition, 5th month to 6th month of gestation, that is when your medullary phase, or sometimes known as myeloid stage, takes place. Okay? The medullary or your myeloid phase. So, prior to the 5th month of pregnancy, hematopoiesis then starts to begin in the bone marrow cavity. Okay? So, meaning, the site of hematopoiesis on this medullary period would be your bone marrow. Okay? And that transition that we are referring to a while ago, that transition is called medullary hematopoiesis because it occurs in the medulla or the inner part of your bone. So, kunyari, ito yung bone natin, the inner part or the medulla, that is where your hematopoiesis occur. That's why you then call it as the medullary phase. Okay? And usually, by the end of 24th week of gestation, our bone marrow is then considered as the main site for hematopoiesis. And it will persist all throughout our lives. Okay? So, after 24th week of gestation, the day we are born, the day we become adults, and later on, hanggang sa pagtanda natin, still, it will be the job of our bone marrow to produce our cells. Okay? And as to studies, it has been said that on this bone marrow during the medullary phase, hematopoietic stem cells become present. Hematopoietic stem cells are now responsible later on for the development and production of our blood cells. So, your hematopoietic stem cells, mesenchymal cells, tend to migrate at the core of your bone marrow that will then be later on needed for the production of our blood cells. Okay? So, its measurable levels of growth factors are present during the medullary phase. Growth factors, later on, will further elaborate that will be needed to make sure that those stem cells will then later on commit themselves in the production of a specific cell. So, meron tayong growth factors like erythropoietin, thrombopoietin, and so on and so forth. Later, we'll further elaborate what are those growth factors that we need. But again, ulitin natin, in this medullary phase or myeloid stage, this is when our bone marrow becomes the main responsible site for hematopoiesis. Okay? It is when your hematopoietic stem cells start to move at the core of your bones. Okay? Definitely, you have stem cells there from your from the other stages, 'di ba? From your mesoblastic sa hepatic phase natin, pero at this point, nagpupunta na yung mga hematopoietic stem cells natin into the bone marrow that will later on be needed for hematopoiesis. And yung bone marrow na yun that we are referring to, I don't know if you have tried it or if you have tasted it, yan yung tinataktak nyo, yung hinihigop-higop natin sa bulalo. Okay? And this bone marrow here that we are referring to, generally, during this medullary phase, occurs generally in most of our bones. Among us adults, the principal source of production would be the flat bones. Flat bones yan, particularly our sternum. Okay? So, it's from Rodax. So, this is just a figure about the production of cells, the stages involved in the production of cells. So, you have here the fetal months, and as mentioned a while ago, paglabas natin, kapag pagpanganak sa atin, still, it will be the bone marrow's job to produce the cells. What will then differ then would be the different sides of our bones. Okay? It's mostly on your flat bones. Yan, particularly on your sternum. Okay? Among newborns, pwede rin doon sa tibia, doon sa lower extremities. But as we get older and older, then later on, it would be on the other parts or other flat bones of the body. Okay? So, talking about this bone marrow, talking about the bone marrow, we have this thing called hematopoietic tissue. Okay? This hematopoietic tissue is the one responsible for the synthesis or production of cells. And this hematopoietic tissue is basically located on your bone marrow, the lymph node, the spleen, the liver, and the thymus, or your reticuloendothelial system. Right? Wherein, on this bone marrow, especially when you reach the medullary stage, on this bone marrow, it will then further contain your developing cells. Okay? Developing RBC, developing WBC, those megakaryocytes needed for platelet production, and those lymphoid cells needed in the production of lymphocytes. So, lahat yun, doon natin makikita sa bone marrow natin. That's why, if you want to, let's say, sir, I want to examine how an immature cell looks like, how an immature RBC or immature WBC looks like, normally, generally, we get into the bone marrow specimen. Okay? That's what we examine. That's what we extract. Okay? Not unless those immature cells start to become present in the blood, then at times, it depends on the disease, especially if you have leukemia, then you can then extract certain abnormal cells or immature cells in the blood. But generally, immature cells, remember, or those young cells, are confined within the bone marrow. Okay? Generally, they should not be present in the peripheral blood because maturation and development will only occur on your bone marrow. Okay? Then, on this adult hematopoietic tissue, that is where lymphoid development also occurs, particularly having your primary and your secondary lymphoid tissue. So, yung primary refers to your bone marrow and for your thymus. O para madaling tandaan, we have two types of lymphocytes, right? We have the B cell and the T cell. Tama? So, primary refers to your bone marrow and your thymus where B cells and T cells are derived. So, B cells kasi galing siya ron sa bone marrow and T cells because galing siya ron sa thymus. Okay? Then, secondary lymphoid tissue, this is where lymphoid cells respond to foreign bodies, foreign antigens, which is then comprised of your spleen, yan, yung lymph nodes natin, and other lymphoid tissue, yung mga tinatawag natin mucosa-associated lymphoid tissues. Okay? So, with our bone marrow, since this is the main responsible organ or main responsible site for hematopoiesis, it's just necessary na we do know the different information and necessary information about this organ. Okay? So, this bone marrow, remember, develops in the embryo by the hollowing out of the skeletal bones forming a central cavity. So, just to make it clear, it's not the bone itself. Okay? It's not the bone itself. It's that soft tissue inside your bone cavity, the central cavity. Okay? And on this bone marrow, it contains hematopoietic cells, stromal cells, and blood vessels. Okay? You have their blood vessels like your arteries, your veins, your vascular sinuses, and then you have your hematopoietic cells, which then gives rise to your primitive and undifferentiated cell, yung mga tinatawag nating hematopoietic stem cells. Okay? Stem cells. Then you also have their stromal cells, which play an important role in the microenvironment of our hematopoietic tissue so that we can then produce out cells. So we have cells here like your endothelial cells. Meron din tayo mga macrophages, osteoblasts, yung mga bone-forming cells, osteoclast, mga bone-resorpting cells, and reticular cells. Okay? So basically, the main role of our bone marrow in the body is the proliferation and production of blood cells. That's the main job. Okay? Kasi as written here, all blood-formed elements ultimately develop from your hematopoietic stem cell that is generally present on your bone marrow. Okay? And we have two types of this bone marrow. We have this thing called red bone marrow and yellow bone marrow. Okay? So when you say red bone marrow, it is active. Okay? When you say red, it's something cellular. And usually at birth, our bone marrow is 100% red. Okay? At birth. Pero definitely, as we grow older and older, from red bone marrow, later on, you may then have accumulation of fats. Fats, that's why you call it as yellow bone marrow. So when you say red, again, it is active, which consists the developing cells and the progenitors So you can then produce the mature ones. And then yellow, again, hematopoietically wise, they are inactive. Okay? They are inactive. So meaning to say, they are not technically capable of producing out blood cells. Okay? So, as we age, ayan, kunyari, as to studies, when we reach, ayan, sa mga edad natin ngayon, 20 years old, 20s, right? Technically, our bone marrow is around 60 to 70% active. So, at this age, ibig sabihin, we are capable of producing enough cells, right? On your flat bones, on your pelvis, or on your sternum. Then, sa mga bata-bata, let's say 5 to 7 years old, according to Rodax, that is when adipocytes become more present or more dominant, that then it later on occupies spaces in your long bones. Kaya, pag tumanda-tanda na, a while ago, we have said that, sir, cell production could also be on the lower extremities, tibia, femur, tama? Pero pag tumanda-tanda na, 5, 7 years old, pataas, natatapos na ron sa long bones natin. Like your tibia. Kaya pag tumanda na, it could then be more on the other flat bones like your sternum or even your pelvis. Okay? Then, sometimes, you might wonder, sir, yung yellow bone marrow ba natin, sir, later on, pwede ba siyang sir? Pwede ba siyang mag-revert into an active one again? So, there are times, especially if there's a need to do so, if the need arises, there may be special processes or mechanisms wherein your yellow bone marrow can then become active again. Okay? Then, when it comes to your red bone marrow, this is what we need, basically, right? So, your red bone marrow composed of the hematopoietic cells and macrophages arranged in extravascular cords. So, you have here your erythroblasts, your megakaryoblast, your granulocytic cells, and the hematopoietic cells that we are referring to here, remember, develop in specific nicks. Sige, sulat nyo na lang or tingnan nyo sa books. These hematopoietic cells develop in specific nicks within the cords of your bone marrow. Okay? So, main functions of your red bone marrow is the production of cells, iron storage, especially when red cells are destroyed. 'Di ba yung red cell natin merong iron, so when it's destroyed, iron comes out and it could then be stored back in your bone marrow so you can recycle them. Okay? Then mature blood cells of the bone marrow eventually enter the peripheral circulation by processes that are not clearly understood. Yan, according to literatures. Kasi your cells, remember, the immature ones are within the bone marrow. Sir, what if they mature? They will mature and they will be present still within the bone marrow. Okay? But with these mature cells leaving the marrow and going into the peripheral circulation, still, the processes involved there are not clearly understood by far. Okay? What we know is that once they mature within the bone marrow, they will start to leave the marrow and go to the peripheral circulation. Okay? So, on this slide here, so, ayan, this is an adult skeleton, and those red area refers to your active red bone marrow. Okay? Active red marrow capable of hematopoiesis. Okay? Then, on this slide here, it's a fixed and stained bone marrow biopsy. So, you have here a picture of your bone marrow specimen that we process in the laboratory. So, yung mga white portions na yan, those are your fat cells. Okay, definitely, you have the bone. You can then extract their other cells like osteoblasts, osteoclasts, makakita ka. Plus, you'll have your hematopoietic tissue. Remember, on that hematopoietic tissue, that is where we derive the blood cells. Okay? Normally, we say that this bone marrow in a stained smear, bone marrow smear, is normal if there is 30 to 70% hematopoietic cells. Meaning, the bone marrow is normocellular. Okay? Referring to hematopoiesis to, okay? Normocellular. If there's 30 to 70% hematopoietic cells. Okay? Hematopoietic cells include the mature and the immature forms. Okay? If you exceed on that, more than 70%, sir, I have more than 70% hematopoietic cells. You then call it as hypercellular. There's hyperplasia. There is an abnormal increase in the production of cells. Kasi definitely, there will always be certain limits. Right? Kaya later, as we deal with the regulators, meron din tayong mga inhibitors. Yes, we need cells, we produce cells, but definitely, we produce what we need. Okay? No more, no less. So if there will be excess production or decreased production, it may then lead to certain complications and are associated with diseases. So more than 70% is considered as hypercellular, and less than 30% would then be considered as hypocellular. And worse comes to worse, sometimes our bone marrow is characterized to be aplastic. Aplastic or aplasia. So if there's aplasia, it simply means that there's very few, or worst is, there's a total absence of hematopoietic cells. And you know what happens next? If there's an absence of these hematopoietic cells, expect that there will be less red cells providing you oxygen, less white cells protecting you from unwanted organisms, and less platelets that will help you to form clots. Okay? So, the nutrient and oxygen requirements of the bone marrow are supplied by the so-called nutrient and periosteal arteries. Definitely, your bone marrow needs to receive nutrients. Okay? So, those arteries, nutrient artery supplies blood only for our bone marrow so that our marrow will receive nutrients. Diba? Will receive essential nutrients like oxygen, let's say. Then your periosteal arteries provides nutrients both for your bone and for your bone marrow. Okay? So the point is, yung bone marrow natin still receives blood. So they can be supplied with nutrients. Then later on, blood exits the bone marrow by the veins, your longitudinal veins, which runs the length of your bone marrow. Okay? Then hematopoietic cells located on the endothelial bed receive their nutrients to the nutrient artery. So basically, dyan sa mga arteries na meron tayo, that is where your bone marrow receives their nutrients or their energy. Okay? Then for your hematopoietic microenvironment, basically, this is needed so we can then nurture and protect our hematopoietic stem cells. Okay? This hematopoietic microenvironment here sometimes is referred to as the hematopoietic inductive microenvironment. Or, kung babalikan nyo kanina, yung sinulat ko kanina, it refers to your NICs. Okay? That is needed for the proliferation and production of your cells. Okay? So this microenvironment here also is used or needed so we can then balance the quiescence or yung mga inactive or dormant cells, self-renewal of your hematopoietic stem cells, and differentiation of your hematopoietic stem cells. So it's like as the site of hematopoiesis transitions from the yolk sac to the liver, then later on to your bone marrow, the microenvironment needs for your hematopoietic stem cells should also then be adjusting. Okay? Kasi from yolk sac, pupunta ka ng liver, pupunta ka ng bone marrow, so definitely, there should also be proper supply of nutrients needed by your hematopoietic stem cells so they can then later on provide you mature cells. Parang dapat meron ding adjustment period. Okay? Meron ding transition. So this microenvironment here is responsible for supplying semi-fluid matrix or the so-called stroma that serves as an anchor for the developing hematopoietic cells. So yung mga stroma na yan, those stromal cells form an extracellular matrix on your NICs so you can promote cell adhesion, it can regulate hematopoietic stem cells also, and maintenance of proteins needed by your maturing cells. Those stromal cells, okay, they form extracellular matrix on those NICs. Para saan? Para kay hematopoietic stem cells natin. Okay? Kasi we need to protect these stem cells here. Right? We need to protect them and we need to nourish them so that we can then produce those mature and functioning blood cells. So, ano-ano ba sir yung mga stromal cells natin? So, stromal cells play critical roles in the regulation of your hematopoietic stem cells, even the progenitor cells, so they can then survive and they can then be easily differentiated. When you say differentiated, it's for you to be able to differentiate them or distinguish them as to their cell line. Red cell, white cell, or platelets. Okay? So, the key stromal cells taught to support hematopoietic stem cells in your bone marrow NICs are the following. So, you have your endothelial cells which regulate the flow of particles entering and leaving your hematopoietic spaces. You have your fat cells, mga adipocytes natin, and they are essential because they secrete various steroids that influence erythropoiesis and maintain bone integrity and regulates the volume of the bone marrow. For all you know, we need fats. Yan, kasi para yan sa mga natin, hormones natin, steroids, for example. Okay? We have macrophages, which is important for phagocytosis, diba? The removal of unwanted materials, and macrophages would be essential also so you can then secrete cytokines. They do secrete cytokines. Cytokines which later on regulate hematopoiesis. Then again, yung osteoblast natin, yung mga bone-forming cells natin, which is sometimes mistaken as plasma cells. You also have osteoclasts, the bone-resorpting cells or bone-destroying cells. And lastly is your reticular cells, which supports your vascular sinuses and hematopoietic cells. Okay? Then, the extracellular matrix of the bone marrow will be made up of the following. Okay? So, stromal cells secrete semi-fluid extracellular matrix, the following here, so that it can serve to anchor the developing hematopoietic cells in the bone cavity. So, they are protected. Diba? Sabi natin sa microenvironment, we need to protect those hematopoietic stem cells. Right? So, those stromal cells that we have mentioned will then secrete semi-fluid extracellular matrix that's made up of the following, so you can then anchor and protect those maturing and developing hematopoietic stem cells. Okay? So, you have the following: fibronectin, collagen, tenascin, and proteoglycans. Proteoglycans like chondroitin sulfate, heparin sulfate, hyaluronate, and so on and so forth. Okay? And whenever you examine the bone marrow, we should also take note of this thing called ME ratio. Myeloid to erythroid ratio. It's a numerical expression of comparing the relative number of granulocyte precursors. Take note, myeloid refers to granulocyte precursors compared to your erythrocyte precursors. Okay, so it's a numerical expression comparing the relative number of these granulocyte precursors and erythrocyte precursors. Okay? Normally, our ME ratio is about 2:1 up to 4:1. To make it simple, you have more granulocyte precursor cells as compared with RBC precursor cells. Precursor, again, refers to your immature cells. Okay? So imagine, within your bone marrow, sir, if I'll examine my marrow, I will have more granulocyte precursors compared to RBC precursors. But if you start to analyze it, sir, why is it that in my blood, I have more RBCs compared to my WBCs? Tama? Diba? Try to analyze it. You have more red cells in your blood as compared to your white cells. But if you go to your bone marrow, you have more granulocyte precursors as compared to your RBC precursors. It all goes down with the survival of your mature cells. Red cells survive in the peripheral circulation for, I'm sure you all know this, for 120 days. Tama? So once they are released from the bone marrow, they will then circulate in the marrow, do their job in transporting oxygen for the next 120 days. Right? But when it comes to mature WBCs, mature granulocytes, take note, granulocytes, lympho and monocytes here are excluded in ME ratio. So we're talking about granulocytes only. Neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils. Okay? So unlike these granulocytes, their survival in the peripheral circulation is way lower as compared to your RBCs. So if red cells survive for 120 days, yung mga granulocytes natin, they will only last in the blood for roughly 1 or 2 days. Ganun lang katagal or ganun lang kabilis. Okay? Ganun lang kabilis because they marginate. They leave your peripheral blood and go to your tissues. That's the cycle or that's the life cycle of your granulocytes, of your WBCs. So that's why if your bone marrow, if your body sends that, sir, I have less white cells in my blood, because they leave the blood, they marginate, and they went to my tissues. So it then sends signals to your bone marrow to produce more and more white cells. So it's like a compensation mechanism. When it comes to red cells, marami ka naman. Tagal naman nabubuhay niyan marami pang natitirang red cells. So when it comes to your marrow, there will be lower precursor of RBCs as compared to your WBCs. I hope you got the point, Since white cells in the blood, the number of white cells is lower compared to red cells, so your bone marrow tends to produce more of them. Okay? When it comes to red cells, you have lots of red cells in the blood, so your marrow tends to produce less of your precursor cells. Kaya, comparing the ME ratio, precursor of your granulocytes would be higher as compared to your RBCs. Okay? And sometimes, there are abnormalities with your ME ratio. Okay? For example, there is infection. Definitely, if there's infection, the more you need WBCs, right? So, from 2:1 to 4:1, it could go as high as 6:1. Kasi the more you need WBCs. Remember this. In hematopoiesis, always remember, we produce what our body needs. If there's infection, so your body will need more WBCs. Kaya if you will check the ME ratio, if you will check the cellularity of the bone marrow, you can expect na more white cell precursors are present. Okay? Similar with leukemia, it can go as high as 25:1. Myeloid hyperplasia, meaning what's elevated are your myeloid precursors, 20:1, and so on and so forth. Okay? So you might ask, sir, when do we examine a bone marrow specimen? When do we request, sir, for a bone marrow sample collection? When do we test bone marrow specimen? So usually, we process and we test bone marrow specimen in cases of hematologic disorders affecting your cells, diba? Like anemia, different types of anemia, leukemia, or any conditions that are affecting your blood cells. Tumor, infection, and so on and so forth. Okay? So on this table here, so it shows the usual percentage of a particular cell or hematopoietic cell within your bone marrow. So again, as what you see here, what's predominant would be your granulocyte precursors, particularly your neutrophilic precursors. So usually, medtechs, pathologists, or hematologists usually count 500 cells in a bone marrow specimen that will then be later on identified and differentiated. Iisa-isahin nila yon. Okay? Preferably, you need to count 1,000, but dahil sobrang dami nun, usually, medtechs, hematologists, or pathologists simply count 500 cells. At least 500 cells. So our job as medtechs would be to assist the doctors, the pathologists in preparing the materials needed for bone marrow sample collection, and we are the ones who prepare smears, bone marrow smears. We are the ones who stain it so that we can then easily visualize and identify cells under the microscope. Okay? Then as mentioned a while ago, these are other cells that you may then see in your bone marrow specimen. Yung mga stromal cells natin, right? Osteoblasts, osteoclasts, macrophages, or your tissue basophils. Yung mga mast cells natin. And when it comes to the collection of the specimen, usually, this bone marrow here is collected on the so-called iliac crests. Okay? It's on your iliac crest. To be specific, it's on your posterior iliac crest. Okay? Usually, that's the preferred site. Occasionally, it could be on your anterior iliac crest. Sometimes, it could be on your spinal processes or vertebral bodies. Or, sometimes, occasionally, it could be on your sternum. Among newborns, as mentioned a while ago, malalambot pa yung lower extremities nila, right? 'Di ba? Hindi pa napupuno masyado ng fats at saka ng calcium, 'di ba? So among newborns, the upper end of the tibia could be used for bone marrow collection. Okay? So in bone marrow specimen, so you can have biopsies or aspiration, so you can check the cellularity of your bone marrow specimen. And generally, the needle we use for Triffin biopsy is what we call as Jamshidi needle. Para aware kayo, ang gauge ng needle na yan is 11. Diba? The lower the number of the gauge is, then the larger the bore size. So imagine, 11 yung gauge size niya. So imagine how big the bore is of the needle. So sana, when you become medtechs later on, working in the laboratory, or when you become pathologists later on, or doctors later on, whenever you are tasked to collect bone marrow specimen and process a bone marrow specimen, then let's make sure na we do it the right way all the time. Okay? Kasi collection alone, your patient may then suffer a lot of pain, 'di ba? The feeling of pain, yung discomfort that your patient may feel during the collection. So, just think of it like that. Okay? And then aspiration, you may then use the so-called University of Illinois sternal needle. Okay? And then sometimes, our bone marrow, you are on the medullary phase, okay? Our bone marrow still fails to meet the physiologic needs of our body. Okay? There are those times. So, extramedullary hematopoiesis will occur whenever hyperplasia of the bone marrow. Dami-dami mo ng cell sa bone marrow. Hyperplasia of the bone marrow cannot meet the physiologic needs of the body. Okay? And when it happens, hindi naman pwedeng stop na lang agad. Right? Even if your bone marrow has hypercellular condition or there is hyperplasia, still you need to produce more cells because the marrow can no longer meet our physiologic needs. So here comes now your other reticuloendothelial system organs. So you have your liver, you have your spleen, your lymph nodes, your thymus, diba? So liver, which is important in the different proteins or essential minerals needed for the synthesis of different substances like DNA and even RNA needed for hematopoiesis. Then you have your spleen, yan, for phagocytosis, lymphopoiesis. You have your lymph nodes that can then help us to filter, to remove those foreign blood contaminants, and later on, help us in the production of blood cells as well as with thymus. Okay? So to specify them, when it comes to your liver, it's the major site of cell production in the second trimester during the fetal development. Tama? So the main function, as I mentioned, would be provide our cells with the necessary nutrients they need for proper and complete development. Right? Protein synthesis, degradation of unwanted proteins, carbohydrates and lipid metabolism, and so on and so forth. Okay? And liver, remember, is often involved in blood-related diseases. Yan, kunyari, yung tinatawag natin na porphyria. Okay? Which is a defect in the enzymes involved in the synthesis of heme. Heme needed for hemoglobin. Okay? So, there could be problems with your red cells because there's a problem with your liver. Because it is our liver that provides them those necessary nutrients needed for their complete development. Okay? Then you also have your spleen, which is your largest lymphoid organ in the body, located beneath your diaphragm. Okay? Beneath your diaphragm, behind your stomach, in the upper left quadrant of our abdomen. Okay? And when it comes to our blood cells, there are two important roles for your spleen. Number one is that it sequesters platelets. It stores platelets. Not all platelets produced from your bone marrow will be circulating in the blood, some of which are stored in your spleen for emergency usage. So if the need arises, pwedeng ilabas ni spleen si platelet. And more so, diba, we call it the graveyard of the body because your spleen removes those old and damaged blood cells. If there are immature cells, abnormal cells, in cases of leukemia, let's say, it is the job of the spleen to remove all those unwanted substances. Okay? And ano yan? Parang there is a constant rate of blood received by your spleen. Yan. If I'm not mistaken, it's around 350 ml per minute. Your spleen receives 350 ml of blood per minute. Kasi as they pass on to that spleen, 'di ba? That is when you can then remove those unwanted or all damaged cells. Okay? Then you have three types of splenic tissue. You have your white pulp, which then contains your lymphocytes, macrophages. You have your red pulp, containing macrophages natin, specialized macrophages. And then your marginal zone. Marginal zone which then surrounds your white pulp and contains blood vessels, your macrophages, and some B cells and T cells. Okay? Then, additionally, ito dagdag ko lang, additional note with your spleen, whenever your spleen is enlarged, that's the time that more platelets are sequestered, more platelets are stored, and when it's enlarged, even those young and healthy cells may also be affected, may also be damaged, may also be destroyed by the spleen. Diba? Normally, yung mga mga abnormal or unwanted cell lang. Pero in cases of hypersplenism or splenomegaly, then that's the time na even those young cells may then be affected. And usually, your spleen becomes enlarged if there is an increased need for the removal of unwanted cells. Say for example, you have leukemia, you keep on producing unwanted cells, so later on, your spleen tends to enlarge. So as it enlarges, yes, it removes those abnormal cells or unwanted cells, but at the same time, may also affect those young and healthy cells. Kaya at times, pag meron ng damage or lumalaki na masyado yung spleen, sometimes, there is a need to remove your spleen. Kakaroon na ng splenectomy. Okay? But if you remove the spleen, definitely, it can still affect the circulation of your blood cells. So, pwedeng, sir, tumaas yung platelets ko kasi hindi na nasi-sequester. Tumaas, sir, yung mga WBCs ko and the likes. Okay? Then, next one would be your lymph nodes, which are organs of your lymphatic system located along your lymphatic capillaries. Okay? So, the main function would be for lymphocyte proliferation, initiation of specific immune response against foreign materials, and to filter unwanted substances like cellular debris, mga tissue debris, or even microorganisms like bacteria. Then you have two regions, the cortex or your outer layer containing B cells or B lymphocytes, and you have your inner layer called as the medulla, which consists primarily of T lymphocytes. So sa cortex, more of the B, and then sa medulla, more of the T cells. Okay? Then lastly would be your thymus. Thymus, which then originates from endodermal and mesenchymal tissue, and it is located in the upper part of the anterior mediastinum. Okay? It's about parang at the level of the great vessels of the heart. Okay? So, it's populated initially by primitive lymphoid cells from the yolk sac and the liver. And its main function basically is for the conditioning of your lymphocytes. Conditioning, development, or maturation of your lymphocytes. Specifically, diba sabi natin kanina, thymus, so specifically your T cells. Okay? Then just like your lymph nodes, you have two layers also. Cortex, your outer layer or your peripheral zone, and then medulla or the inner layer or so-called as the central zone. Okay? So before we proceed, ulitin natin, when it comes to hematopoiesis, it refers to the production of cells, proliferation of cells, differentiation, and maturation of cells that involves three different stages. Mesoblastic, from your yolk sac, producing your RBCs, your erythroblasts. Then later on, you'll have your liver together with other RES organs that will then be responsible for the production of all blood cells. And once the liver declines its cell production, the bone marrow will then be the one responsible for the production of cells as early as the 6th month of gestation all throughout after pregnancy and until we become adults. Okay? So lastly, for this session, we will discuss the theory in hematopoiesis, the stem cell theory in hematopoiesis. Okay? So when it comes to the theories, we have two. We have the so-called monophyletic and the polyphyletic theory. When you say monophyletic theory, it suggests that, you call it mono, it suggests that all blood cells that we have are derived from a single progenitor stem cell. Isa lang. Okay? From a single stem cell. And we call that stem cell as pluripotential hematopoietic stem cell. Pluripotent. Okay? Then when you say polyphyletic, it suggests that each blood cell lineage is derived from its unique or own unique stem cell. So it's like pag polyphyletic, for every blood cell, RBC, granulocyte, monocyte, for example, they have their own stem cell. Yun yung polyphyletic. So sir, anong mas ginagamit natin dyan? Okay? The monophyletic theory is the most widely accepted theory among experimental hematologists as of today. This is what we follow. Kaya in hematology books, it's more of the monophyletic theory indicating that all blood cells are derived from a single stem cell called as pluripotential hematopoietic stem cells. And these stem cells here, later on, differentiate into one or another type of the so-called committed or progenitor cells. Mamaya, i-elaborate natin yon. Okay? And these stem cells here, remember, are self-renewing. They are pluripotent based on your monophyletic theory. And they are able to reconstitute the hematopoietic system of a lethally irradiated host. So for apoptosis. Okay? So when it comes to the stem cell theory, sabi, on that monophyletic theory, all cells are derived from a pool of stem cells that are self-renewing, and then pluripotential and multipotential stem cells give rise to committed stem cells for each stem cell line. Committed stem cells, remember, have receptors for specific growth factors. So according to the theory, it states that you have your stem cell pool doon sa bone marrow natin, doon sa NICS kanina, right? Later on, it will then give rise to your so-called committed stem cell. Remember, if you are at this point, pluripotent hematopoietic stem cell, it is still considered as undifferentiated. Pag sinabi nating undifferentiated, it's still confused. Will it be a red cell? Will it be a white cell? Will it be a megakaryocyte producing platelets? It's a question mark. That's why you call it as undifferentiated. Okay? But then, when you say committed, meaning to say, your stem cell has committed itself in the production of a specific cell. Diba? Parang humans, you need to commit yourself with only one. Tama? Sa isa lang dapat. Right? So, to further understand that, look at this figure here. Okay? So, this is your pluripotent hematopoietic stem cell. Please follow me, ha? This is your pluripotent hematopoietic stem cell. Later on, giving rise to progenitor cells. These are now your committed progenitor cells. Committed in such a way that your lymphoid stem cell here will then help you produce lymphocytes. Either a B cell or a T cell. Right? Depende na lang sa maturation site. If it's on the thymus, that's your T cell. If it's in the bone marrow, that is your B cell. Okay? So from your pluripotent hematopoietic stem cell, you'll have your committed progenitor cells Your lymphoid followed by, yung isa naman, is your myeloid stem cell. Okay? Myeloid stem cell that will then be responsible in the production of your mature cells aside from your lymphocytes. So doon manggagaling si RBC, si eosinophil, si monocyte, si basophil, and so on and so forth. But then, to make sure that this myeloid stem cell will commit itself, sir. Ang gusto ko lang, sir, are red cells lang po. Wala nang iba, sir. This myeloid stem cell will only commit itself in the production of RBCs if there will be specific growth factors. To make it simple, these are your stimulants. They stimulate your stem cells to make sure that these stem cells become specific. These stem cells, the appropriate term there is, these stem cells become committed. Okay? Committed in the production of a specific cell. Okay? So take note, from your pluripotent hematopoietic stem cell, which is undifferentiated, later on, you will have your lymphoid stem cell and your myeloid stem cell that will then be further stimulated by growth factors so that they could be committed in the production of a specific cell. So para mas makuha natin, imagine you are the myeloid stem cell. If I will ask you, can you produce all these cells? Yes. Can you produce all of them at the same time? No. Because one stem cell here, a single myeloid stem cell here, needs to commit itself in the production of only one. Okay? But if you will be asked, are these cells all derived from your myeloid stem cell? Based on theory, yes. Okay? But there are stimulants or growth factors that are needed so you can then make sure that these stem cells are specific. Okay? So, these hematopoietic precursor cells give rise to colonies in studies, based on studies, okay? Gives rise to colonies that can survive to from 5 to 8 weeks based on laboratory experiments. So, yung mga colonies na yon are then further called as your CFUs, colony forming units. So, theoretically, if you form those colonies, and that is because of a growth factor for erythrocytes, then you call it as CFUE, colony forming unit erythroid. Okay, meaning theoretically, dahil pare-pareho sila ng itsura, theoretically, if what I have is CFUE, that means to say that from my myeloid stem cell, it was stimulated by a growth factor to make sure that it can produce out RBCs. Okay? And so on and so forth. That's the same idea. So if I have here, let's say, another growth factor needed for megakaryocyte or platelet production, it means to say that your myeloid stem cell here will then produce colony-forming units that will mature later on to become megakaryocytes. Okay? So, these colony-forming units here promote later on the proliferation and differentiation of your stem cells, which will then allow us to further characterize them, and later on differentiate them. Okay? So, balikan natin yung picture, ha? So, hopefully, it's a bit clear with you. Again, if you have questions, just send me a message or send me an email. Okay? So, from your pluripotent hematopoietic stem cell, you'll have your progenitor cells, and with the help of growth factors, you will then be able to stimulate these progenitor cells to be committed and specific in the production of a cell, a particular mature cell. Okay? And then by the numbers, per kilogram of body weight daily, there are 2.5 billion erythrocytes produced, 2.5 billion of platelets, and 1 billion of granulocytes produced. Okay? Daily in a normal adult. Okay? But definitely, the determining factor controlling the rate of production of these blood cells is dependent on the physiologic needs of our body. Okay? It depends on the physiologic needs. So, let's say, there's infection. So, sir, I need to produce more WBCs. Sir, there is bleeding. So, I need to produce more platelets and so on and so forth. Okay? And then, as to the numbers, there would be 1 hematopoietic stem cell for every 1,000 nucleated blood cells. 1 hematopoietic stem cell for every 1,000 nucleated blood cells. So, no need to worry kung masyadong konti because they are capable of mitotic divisions. They're capable of cell division when stimulated by growth factors, stimulated by cytokines to make sure na we can increase the proliferation of blood cells. So kahit isa lang yang stem cell na yan for every 1,000 nucleated blood cells, still we can produce enough number of cells daily based on the physiologic needs of our body. Okay? And then, the earliest identifiable human hematopoietic stem cells capable of initiating long-term cultures express the following here. Okay? Yung mga naka-highlight dyan. Okay? So, yan yung expression ng mga chromosomes nila. So, CD34 positive, CD38 negative, and so on and so forth. So, if your cells express CD38 and HLA-DR, the chromosomes, they will then lose their stemness in producing out your cells. CD33 and 38 will be committed for myeloid progenitors. This one is for lymphoid progenitors. And then CD7 specifically for T cells and CD19 specifically for B cells. So it's like expression of these chromosomes will then help us identify the commitment of a particular progenitor in the production of a cell. Okay? So, lastly, as mentioned a while ago, to make sure that your stem cells become committed in the production of specific cell line, there should be growth factors. Right? So, we have these things called cytokines, and growth factors which then regulate the proliferation, differentiation, and maturation of hematopoietic precursor cells. Okay? So we have the following here such as erythropoietin, yan, derived from your kidneys. Obviously, if there's EPO, it will then help your myeloid stem cell to produce out RBCs. Right? O, balikan natin yung picture. So if I have here, let's say, EPO, I have here EPO. EPO stimulated my myeloid stem cell. Automatic. My stem cell here will then help me produce out RBCs. Okay, that's the role of your growth factors or of your cytokines. Then TPO derived from your liver and of your kidneys, which is then needed for the production of megakaryocytes, later on producing out your platelets. Then generally, you have your CSFs. CSF produced by various cells, by different cells. Your CSF stands for colony stimulating factor. Okay? Colony stimulating factor which then regulates the production of your WBCs. G stands for granulocyte. GM is for granulocyte and your macrophage or your monocytes if it's in the blood. Okay? And then lastly, you have your cytokine known as interleukins. So, you call it as interleukins kasi before they are thought to be present or released only by leukocytes. Kaya interleukins. But later on, studies revealed that other cells also produce these types of cytokines. Mga ano yan? Cytokines yan. Signaling mechanisms. And they are numbered based on the time when they were discovered. Interleukin 1, interleukin 2, and so on and so forth. So these are signaling molecules. Okay, signaling molecules that then helps your progenitor cells to be committed in the production of specific cells. Okay? So when you say cytokines again, these are group of proteins that have direct and indirect effects on your hematopoietic stem cells. Okay? So the main functions for your cytokines include preventing hematopoietic precursor cells from dying by inhibiting apoptosis. It then stimulates stem cells to divide. Especially regulating your mitosis from your G0 to G1 stage. Kung tatandaan nyo pa sa mitosis. And then it regulates cell differentiation into different cell lineages. Para ma-divide natin if this will be for red cell, if this will be for granulocytes, and so on and so forth. Okay? And then cytokines may also have a negative influence with hematopoiesis. Definitely. Kasi again, ulitin ko, in hematopoiesis, we produce what our body needs. Right? So kapag na-produce mo na yung amount of cells that your body needs, so definitely, there should be an inhibiting factor. Right? So there are available cytokines that also have a negative influence or negative effect with hematopoiesis. So meaning, instead na makapag-proliferate ka ng cells, makapag-produce ka ng cells, with these cytokines, there will be inhibition of cell production. So we have the following as interferons, tumor necrosis factor alpha, and your transforming growth factor beta. So those are your negative influences, cytokines with negative influences in hematopoiesis. And if you have negative, yung mga yan yung positive natin. Okay? But to add more to that, there are also positive influences like, as written there, your interleukins, 1, 3, 6, 9, 11, 7, yung mga KIT ligands, this one, KIT ligands, GM-CSF, and so on and so forth. Those are positive influences. Those are cytokines that then helps you increase the proliferation of your hematopoietic cells. Okay? And then, lastly, so this is a summary of those growth factors or of those progenitor cells that will then give you a specific cell line. Okay? So these are your growth factors. These are your progenitor cells, yung kanina, from your myeloid, di ba, forming your colony-forming units. So from myeloid, magiging colony-forming units, and with the help of your growth factors here, di ba, you can produce now your specific mature cells. Okay? So to sum it up, when it comes to the theory of stem cell theory of hematopoiesis, the most acceptable one, remember, would be your monophyletic theory, indicating that all blood cells that we have are derived from a primitive, very young, and undifferentiated hematopoietic stem cell. And we call it as your pluripotential hematopoietic stem cell. And from that pluripotent hematopoietic stem cell, it will then give rise to progenitor stem cells that will be stimulated by growth factors so that your stem cells could then commit themselves in the production of a specific cell. Okay? So, what you have here on this session would be the general features of hematopoiesis. So, on our next meeting, what we are going to deal with would be the lineage-specific hematopoiesis. Meaning to say, iisa-isahin na natin yung cells. So, what are the stages involved in erythropoiesis, stages involved in granulopoiesis, and so on and so forth. Okay? We will then go to the specifics. So, after your growth factors have stimulated your progenitor cells, then next week, this would then be our discussion. picture na yon. This would then be our discussion. So we'll then go to the specifics. What are the stages involved in RBC production, in granulocyte production, and so on and so forth. Okay? So again, if you have any questions or clarifications, again, just feel free to send me a message. Okay?